When you think about how some of our customers look at us as cleaning entrepreneurs, some don't really value the work, right? Or maybe sometimes they might even see you as less than. But you have to keep in mind how to compose yourself, articulate a message to a customer that may be complaining about nothing. These principles, once you get the personal development piece intact, it definitely translates into business and will help you tremendously.
Today's guest is Mr. Derrick Emanuel. He is a husband, a father of two, an educator, a mentor, and an author, not to mention a serial entrepreneur. He has a master's degree in educational leadership and has written a book called The Value of a Mentor. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you for bringing me on.
Mr. Emanuel and I actually connected via Instagram. So thank you so much for reaching out and sending me a copy of your book. I love it. It's amazing. And I definitely want to get into the book because I feel like it's really important for a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs and really just anyone that's looking to make a change in their life, right? Or are looking for some type of direction, from those who have been in our shoes before. So let's talk a little bit about, you have so many accolades, and I know I said it in the beginning, just a little while ago in the intro, but you have a master's degree in educational leadership, correct?
Yes.
What made you take that turn to get into not just educating others, but also becoming a leader for those young adults that you teach?
Awesome question. So for me, being around, some amazing people, having a great upbringing, with my parents, those were just some core values that were instilled into me, even from a young child, playing sports, being involved in church, in our community. Those were just some important things that were taught to us. So as I got into young adulthood and then into adulthood, it just was kind of second nature to just make sure that, you were continually striving, just to improve yourself, right? And, make yourself better than those that are around you. So for me, educating children, it started around about 2004, just kind of doing after school programs and, working around the YMCA. Then upon graduation from college, thought it might be great that, I look into teaching. And it was something, kind of like everybody after high school, you just kind of don't know maybe sometimes what's next. But for me, it kind of, the doors opened for teaching. And it was something that was an amazing experience that I had over 10 years of, being in education and, simultaneously by also being an entrepreneur as well, too. So for me, it was just kind of, again, that second nature and just kind of an upbringing.
That's amazing. And from what I read in your book, and you had just mentioned as well, you did have a very strong upbringing. So you had those positive figures in your life. I know you go to church. You were always playing football, both of your parents, as you mentioned. You had a two-parent household. So that, I'm sure, really helped mold that leadership aspect of your personality. So you were in education for 10 years. What were you teaching?
Yeah. So I taught grade school, mainly high school. I've had an experience from anywhere from elementary, middle, and high. But my niche was high school and taught 9th through 11th grade English. And so that was my experience there. And a few other subjects as well too, SAT prep, a lot of college prep, things of that nature as well too. And I finished off my last piece of career in education as a director for mentorship. And so for me, just kind of like a stair step, ladder up into, kind of getting to what I really wanted to do.
Which is mentorship.
Which is mentorship, yes.
That's awesome. It is so important. I was reading your book and everything was spot on. You guys have to definitely go check it out. I'll be linking the book down below as well as all of Derrick's socials. But if you're looking to make any type of self-improvement and you need some direction, this book is definitely for you. Every chapter, it's pretty much mapped out in order of like how we should really be in check with ourselves. And kudos to you for being an author, because I do know that it is not an easy task whatsoever. I've spoken to many entrepreneurs that are authors, and they almost kind of scare me when it comes to writing a book, because They've done so many amazing things, built all these different businesses, have been in, the craziest situations, but I always hear that writing a book has been the most difficult.
Yeah, it's an interesting process.
Is it really? We were just talking a little bit off screen. You actually wrote your book during the pandemic.
Yes. For me, and I definitely, for you, don't want it to like scare you, because one of the things, definitely why I gravitated toward you as far as you being an entrepreneur, definitely in the cleaning world, is I always tell people, hey, whatever you know best, right? Whatever's impacted your life the most, once you start putting pen to paper, it just flows, right? And it's not like you're just going out here, writing about something you're just not well versed in or you don't know about. So I would always say that's the first step, right? As far as you knowing what it is that you're passionate about, what's impacted your life the most. So when it came to the mentorship piece, it was just kind of reimagining all those things that important things that were, spoken into my life, moments those mentors sat down with me, intimate moments over, just some food, coffee, and then, just poured their lives into me. And, I in turn wanted to do that same thing just for young men. And I would say even some young women, in the teaching field as well, too. So writing the book during the pandemic was, again, it gave me the time. So definitely, again, while we were all locked down, it was just, hey, kind of just putting that pen to paper and just kind of a level of focus that I never had before.
It's amazing. You took full advantage of that downtime to write your book. You are a serial entrepreneur. Aside from teaching, being an author, full-time father and husband, you also have 2 other businesses.
Yes.
So you do have a commercial cleaning business and a logistics business. So could you talk just a little bit about that and how you manage everything?
Thank you. So that was a great question. So last May, just talking about my journey, I spoke to you and mentioned earlier that I have been in education for, over 10 years. And that was a major part of my life. However, while, running our mentorship program for the 7th largest district in the, entire world here in Houston, Texas, just like any other job, budget cuts come. And so 18 people, including myself, pretty much lost their jobs. For me, I'm always the proponent of not putting all your eggs in one basket. And so that happened last May. I was at a crossroads or an intersection. I had always had that unction and just that passion and desire to go into full-time entrepreneurship. So I kind of felt like I was kind of forced and pushed into say, hey, you wanted to do this. Yeah. So it was just like, now, like, what are you going to do? And so for me, I had always been doing, commercial cleaning. I was introduced to commercial cleaning at the age of 18 from a cousin. A married couple took me in while I was in college and simultaneously taught me the business. And so I was able to when I lost my job, lean right into commercial cleaning, begin to build that even more. And that just kind of helped me kind of also at the same time, work on logistics, bit by bit. But man, commercial cleaning was really, really the saving grace and, what really positioned my family and I for me to take that leap into full-time entrepreneurship.
Wow, thank you so much. You just dropped a huge gem right there, because he literally is saying that going into the commercial cleaning after losing that job really did help with everything else you were able to accomplish.
Absolutely.
You were staying with your cousin and his wife, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and they had their own commercial cleaning business as well?
Yeah, and you definitely had the great AJ Simmons on, at one point, right? And definitely, love
shout
AJ
out to AJ.
Yeah, shout out to AJ, man, just for his impact in the cleaning world. But my cousin and his wife, I never really saw like a couple doing things together as far as in a business, and they were working a business together, a franchise. They had a Jana King franchise, and I was new to that world, and I just remember getting out in these evening times and just, scrubbing some toilets and, just mopping and doing, and I was just learning how to, number one, clean, but then just also being able to see the business. And so I did that pretty much throughout college. And about 2 years after I got married, I decided to purchase my own franchise. I bought a Jan Pro franchise in North Carolina. And so did that while we were there. And in 2014, we moved here to Houston, Texas. Took a little time off just from, cleaning. And then I was just like, hey, let me kind of research what's happening in the area with, cleaning. And so I purchased another franchise here in 2016. It's been history ever since.
That's amazing. How did you get into the logistics business? Was that also something that you had brewing in the back of your mind? Did you just see like an opportunity? Did you know somebody that was into that business? And logistics, are we speaking about trucks, deliveries?
Yes, trucking. Yeah. For me, I'm always, as you mentioned, a serial entrepreneur, right? Whatever it is that I'm doing, I'm always trying to educate myself on what's out there, what's next. And as we all know, it's not about, when a stream of income might dry up. It's about, again, when it will happen. And so you always kind of got to stay ahead of the game, right? Ahead of the curve. And again, not put all your eggs in one basket. And so for me, it's just hanging around certain people that are business oriented. And I knew that logistics business was something that has always been around, that will always be around, right? And one of my coaches, his amazing phrase is that freight must be moved, right? And, anywhere and all over the world. And so for me, in true Derrick fashion, I looked for, people that were doing things at a high level, coaching, mentorship. And so that was my first step. Found a team, a husband and wife team that were just doing some things in an amazing way. And I really, really saw them helping people, introducing them to the transportation business. And so I took that step also last summer as well, too. Bought my LLC, structured that and everything, and just kind of took off.
That is very impressive. So what I hear is that you have had a number of different mentors throughout your life.
Oh, yes.
That have helped you, mentor you into whether it was the educating, even as far back when you were younger, but as well in both of your businesses. So I definitely would like to get into that because the book is amazing. I really, really love how you structured it. You talk about self-awareness, developing your character, eliminating excuses, which was a really good one, chapter 3. I felt like you were talking to me. Yeah, definitely. Chapter 3, I was like, I'm like, that is, a lot of us really need to hear that about eliminating excuses and making up excuses for like what we've been through as far as holding us back. Facing your insecurities was a really good one as well. And then you also get into shaping your vision, minimizing your mistakes. So let's jump into the book, The Value of a Mentor. Why you felt the need to share your journey of mentorship, how mentorship changed your life and the value of a mentor. Because I don't think that a lot of people are really familiar with having a mentor. That word for me wasn't a part of my vocabulary until recently, maybe 5 years ago. I never knew what a mentor was. I never had one as a child. And now that's all I look for, right? So in any type of work, just like you, whether it's exercise, learning a new business or a new skill, I also really love to educate myself and understand what it is that I'm getting into, especially if I want to speak on these subjects. Yeah, definitely. Let's get into the book.
So, thank you so much for that question. As I think about the book, it's definitely one of the most significant things that I've been able to accomplish because, again, I felt like I was able to put my heart and my mind onto paper, right? And, definitely for not only myself, but for others. But for me, I would say mentorship was at around the age of 22 was really the turning point in my life. Again, you're looking at a guy that came from a 2-parent household, very wholesome, respectable, great morals, great values. But there were still certain pieces that once I got to college and kind of started beginning to develop into a young adult, I was like, man, there's certain things that I'm missing. Being around, again, positive people, I start hearing the word mentor. And I was just like, man, okay, that sounds great. But I knew that it was definitely something positive and it definitely had leadership behind it. So, I kind of just started looking at men that I admired from afar, right, that were already doing some of the things that I knew I wanted for my life. Knew I wanted to be a business owner, knew I wanted to be influential in my community, knew that I wanted children, knew I wanted to be married, knew that I wanted to travel and go far in life. And so, again, just watching some of these, guys that I admired, a lot, in my church and definitely around the community. Just asking he's still my mentor to this day, a guy by the name of Joe Jackson, right? And he is an amazing husband, father. But anyway, he just started helping me with, my personal development. We would meet on a monthly, sometimes bi-weekly basis and just have conversation. And the more he began to talk to me, I started to see all those things, as I mentioned in the book, the insecurities that I had, the excuses that I was making, how I had low self-awareness. So that's why I started the book out about self-awareness, because it took me on a journey backwards to some of the failures that I did have in high school, some of the things that I saw growing up that your family kind of won't tell you all the time, right? They just kind of, see you as, their loved one, and, sometimes may not always tell you the truth. So sometimes you just need an unbiased opinion so that you can become the best person that you need to be, right? One of the words that you mentioned earlier was just some direction, right? And so that was important for me to make sure that I wasn't just this man or this guy that was just average and just going through life and just making those excuses, but holding myself accountable, right?
Which is really tough, actually. That was something I was reading in your book. One of my very first mentors, he always held me accountable for like my mistakes. And at first it was really tough. And now 4 years later, he's still my mentor. And even still, sometimes he'll say things that I don't like about me, but it's like the truth. It's like I'll come with a problem and I'll say, hey, look, this and this and this isn't working. Or this is what I'm having a tough time with. And he'll be like, well, I know that you didn't do this, and that. Or you were doing this. And I'm like, I used to get very, very defensive. It almost like right away, it's like super defensive. Like it took me about a year, I want to say, to start actually owning up to my actions and realizing that what he was telling me wasn't anything negative. It was helping me with my self-awareness and helping me with those insecurities and facing them. But that is a very, very tough cookie for most people to accept, because it's funny, because even I talk to some of my friends and mentees and I'll tell them like, you're the only person that's stopping you. And once you realize that and you understand the things that you're doing are not aligning with your goals and your dreams, then you start to just take a lot more responsibility and say, okay, let me stop acting like this or thinking like this or doing anything like that. But yeah, I was reading that part of the book and I was like, man, I'm like, the self-awareness for me was, like I said, it took about a good year. And now I'm like, I own my stuff.
Yes, yeah. And kudos to you for that, because again, you mentioned that that's a hard pill to swallow. And most people won't take that accountability. But anything, again, that is worth having, right, is you're going to have to fight for it. That accountability, building that character is something that I would tell anybody that's listening, right, to make sure if you can start that journey as early as possible, because as we get older, right, it's harder for us to begin to accept things about ourselves that other people see, but sometimes, we ignore. Right. And so shout out to definitely your mentor, because those are the amazing mentors that I don't want to say maybe they don't necessarily care about your feelings, but they do care about you. That's why they want to see the best person out of you.
Thank you for dropping that gem. Yes, because we need that. We need that raw, unfiltered truth. Like, hey, listen, you know what? I saw you out hanging out last weekend, so I don't know how you expect things to get done. And I'm like, damn, I should block him from my Instagram. Right. No, I'm just kidding. But like stuff like that, people don't want to hear that. And it's funny because I also talk like that with some of my close friends. They'll send me stuff and I'm just like, focus. This is not what your time should be spent on. Like, don't send me your TikToks. Just delete the app. You know what I mean? And people get a little bit offended, but I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you everything that all your other friends are not going to tell you. Because everyone's being nice and they're walking on eggshells. But I'm going to tell you, you need to delete that app. You need to stop hanging out and doing this and that. But yeah, that to me was absolutely life-changing, because it was finally making me own up to my mistakes, the things that I was doing, and really helped mold me into the businesswoman that I am today, really. Because I didn't have that structure or, like I said, mentorship as a child. So we have Joe Jackson, who was one of your mentors, you said during college. Who else did you have mentoring you? Because I did read about a few, and if you have any mentors now, let's talk a little bit about them.
So as I mentioned, Joe is definitely still, my mentor to this day. And he is definitely my personal development, all things personal, right? That in turn also, impact other things in my life. Also, I dedicated that book to, 5 of those men throughout, college and even until now that their words still ring in my head, right? Or, just those conversations I'm reminded of. As I think about them, I mentioned my late pastors. He was very impactful. When I'm talking about, when you say a serial entrepreneur, people often say like he was more of a businessman, but yet still an amazing pastor, right? And so all the men that really impacted me were under his leadership. It was a no-brainer, right? All these guys held pretty much the same core values, leadership, right? Just accountability, making sure you display good character. Not saying that they were by any means perfect, but it was a lifestyle that they were trying to press toward. And so even when I approach business, I am looking for the person that has a mentorship at heart, right? Not just somebody that I'm just going to invest into your course and it's just, I'm not going to get anything out of it. But right, how are you really helping people to transition into the cleaning lane, right? Or the transportation? I don't care if it's baking or anything that you're trying to look at getting into. But what is the mentorship like? What is the coaching like? And so for me, as I mentioned, even in the logistics business, Coach Sheldon Moore and Tammy Moore, they're, out of Atlanta, Georgia. Some amazing people, right? When you think about mentorship. And again, he always says that, hey, the hustle is sold separately. Right. So nobody's going to come, tap you on the head and say, get up, push. Nobody's going to come do it. Especially in this entrepreneurial world, man, it's a beast. You just continually need those people behind you. And it's also not only just people that I can reach out and touch, but I still have my podcast and my different personal development people that I might follow on YouTube that are amazing as well, too.
I get asked a lot in my DMs, how does one find a mentor or how do you attract a mentor? Because I also understand that, and this is from reading the book, that you have to be prepared for your mentor. You can't just be like, okay, that's it. Like, I need a mentor today. Like, you have to get right with yourself. So let's talk a little bit about preparing yourself for mentorship, number one, and then how to seek mentorship or what's worked for you.
Awesome question. So for me, again, as you mentioned, it's kind of that self-reflection piece, right? You'll begin to know when you want to go take a different path. As I even think about your journey and your story, right? I think that that's one of the things that made me gravitate toward you like immediately, because I was like, man, this lady is amazing. Like, right. She talked about what she went through, just through young adult, how, teenage years and what you've become today. And you just kind of, I don't know if it's an epiphany, right? We just have a moment to where we say, hey, like what I'm doing right now is not working. So it's just kind of like, okay, we've had some positive people along the way in our lives, right? Whether it was in school or wherever it was a community center. So what positive people look like. I think what's most important, one of the biggest things is kind of knowing where it is that you want it to go. Have some type of idea. You don't have to have everything laid out. But again, as I mentioned, I knew I wanted to be a great husband. I knew I wanted to be a great father, right? I saw that from my parents, but I'm like, I needed a little bit more of a molding and shaping. I knew I wanted to be able to articulate myself very well when I spoke to people. Again, I started looking at men that possessed those different things. Again, it was low-hanging fruit because they were right there present at my church, right? Or coaches. And then once I began to be mentored at the age of 38 now, it's just, I know what to look for within a person. And again, it makes me self-reflect to say, okay, Derrick, you're getting ready to be in another age bracket in the 40s, right? So what do you want your 40s to look like? And who's doing that at a high level right now? Who's done it at a high level? Who's excelled within their 40s? Who has an amazing family? Who's traveling? Who's doing some great things in business? And so that's just kind of my approach when I'm kind of looking for someone.
Right. And I read that in the book. You mentioned you can't just find anybody to mentor you, right? Like you mentioned, your core values need to align with that person. It can't just be based on like vanity, what this person has, or it's more about their personality type, what they believe in, the type of life that they're living. And so you have to find people that you want to be mentored by that live the life that you want to live, or at that point that you're trying to get to next, right? Because we're always trying to excel. Even our mentors have mentors or have been mentored, or they're currently working on their own goals. So that's definitely most important, because you can't just pick anybody out of a hat or just go based on materialistic things. Now, personally for me, I have a handful of mentors actually. I want to say 2 of my business mentors, I feel like I almost attracted. It didn't happen on purpose. I was at a point in my life where I needed to change. I wanted to change. Most importantly, I was ready for the change. I was still living the fast life. I was still bartending. I was going to school for my master's degree at the time. My life just made no sense. Like I said, I was bartending in a go-go bar till like 4 a.m, getting a little bit of sleep, then going to school, hoping to open a business one day. I felt like I was on this hamster wheel, but not getting very far. So I feel like my very first mentor that I met, as well as my second, it was almost like I was just ready for it. It was the universe, a conversation sparked. And from there, my mentor saw something in me. No matter what situation I was in life, like I knew I was meant for better or deserved more. So to have somebody tell me or reassure me on, those same things was like really awesome for me. So like with my first 2 mentors, like I mentioned, it was meant to happen. And I guess I attracted them. My mentors within the cleaning industry, now, those mentors, I actually went and seeked them out. So what I did was I would find these mentors. They would be my mentors online. One of them is AJ Simmons. Another is Ricky Regalado. I used to watch a lot of their videos and teach myself as much as I could with what they had. And then later on, I reached out to them. I built a rapport with them. We became friends, and then I got to learn even more. And then I have had actually also situations where they weren't so successful, where I thought I wanted someone to teach me or mentor me, and they didn't even have the time, or it just didn't work out. However, I'm sure it was for the best. As you mentioned, their goals and ethics didn't align with mine. I'm not sure exactly how, but I do feel that way. How did you go about finding your mentors, and what kind of advice would you give those aspiring entrepreneurs that are looking to find somebody to mentor them?
You mentioned one important thing and some great names. I would just say most importantly, again, once you begin, you had an awakening within you. You said, hey, man, I got to do something different, right? And so you at least had some type of idea on where you wanted to go. For me, the advice that I would give is, again, let's start with low-hanging fruit, right? Look at, research personal development on YouTube, right? And begin to listen to some of those things that you want to, you want to be. You want to be a great leader. You want to be a great speaker. You want to be a great business owner. That's before you even ask anybody, right? And then again, you'll begin to hear people, those amazing people that are speaking on YouTube. You'll be able to filter out those that are really not talking about anything, right? And that's important to know as you move forward, to know what directions not to go, as far as with certain people. So I would say, begin to read, begin to, listen to those different podcasts of people that are talking about amazing things. And like you said, the universe will align. You'll spot out that particular person for, and just watch your life for a while, right? And that you may be thinking about. And again, it'll happen organically, or you can just say, hey, listen, this is what's been on my mind. I've been watching your life. I love the way that you interact with your family. I was wondering, would you be willing to be my mentor? That's literally how it happened with Joe and I. 15 some odd years later, he's still impacting my life in a major way, along with, like you said, a handful of other people. And again, some of those people that I thought could be a mentor of mine, it didn't work out. And like you said, it was for the best. Life is, I've been just fine in this particular space. Right. And so I would just say, man, again, start with low hanging fruit.
So definitely, if you guys are looking for mentorship, as Derrick mentioned, start by listening to audios, podcasts, videos. I mean, don't get me wrong. Everybody loves to have a mentor, a one-on-one. But you can start just by educating yourself, by using these free resources, YouTube, as we mentioned, like audibles, reading books, and then get your personal development in order. That's how I did it also. Before actually reaching out to anybody, I knew I wanted to change. So I started to listen to like Jim Rohn, a bunch of other authors and amazing personal development leaders. And just by listening to these conversations, these audiobooks as I was cleaning,
Right.
as I was cleaning, right?
Definitely.
I didn't listen to music. I'd always be listening to an audiobook. Literally, like the way that I thought started to change. I don't even want to say like I didn't think that any of these things were possible, but because of how I grew up, I didn't have a really good example of anybody that was super successful in life. And, that was doing very well for themselves educationally, financially, and with their family. So for me, listening to these audiobooks, it really opened up my mind just on how I thought, right? Like, I never thought that anything that I wanted to do was possible. I wasn't the type of person to set goals. I never made any plans. And it wasn't until I started educating myself where I was like, wow, like I can do these things. I can become a millionaire. I can be a better mother. I can be a completely different person than I was before, the person that I used to be ashamed of being. And that was another thing too with the personal development and the mentorship helped me. I struggled a lot with accepting, I say my past life, but for me, that person is pretty much dead to me at this point. But it was a really hard pill to swallow, like with the self-awareness and really accepting who I used to be and now the person that I want to become. Just those simple audiobooks, reading, educating yourself, and listening to other people that you can relate to is really important in regards to becoming a better person and then seeking out mentorship. Because once I started to enrich my mind with, okay, I can be a millionaire. I can do anything that I want. I just have to, put the work in, change how I think. Then I was definitely at that next level where I was in that position to actually start reaching out to people, like you mentioned. So that's when I was like, okay, like I'm ready. Because before I didn't know any of this stuff. I was like, now let me give this a shot. And that's how I actually ended up finding a couple more of my mentors in the cleaning industry. And now it's to a point where, again, I'm back to almost attracting those kinds of people. And like you mentioned in your book so much. And it's not like, oh, it's just like a miracle. People just reach out to me. No, like in your book you mentioned, I put myself around those type of people and surround myself with like-minded entrepreneurs and people that are just doing better, right? Like you mentioned being a better husband, a better father. And I think that's where I need to start also working on is more on the personal development side because I am sharpening my business skills. But yeah, now I think that's the lane that I'm in. I do need to find a mentor for just life, really, right? Like be a better mother, just be better all around. As I mentioned, I did reach out to one other person and it didn't work out. But now I realized that, it was nothing personal. It's just not a good fit. And I'm actually glad that it didn't work out because I would have went down probably a different path. So anyone that's looking for a mentor, you guys definitely try educating yourself, listening to audiobooks, and then getting to know a little bit about that person and what it is that they do. And once you know that, okay, this is who I want to be like, or this is the type of person that I want to take advice from, then you can move forward with reaching out and seeing if they would be willing to mentor you.
Something just to add to that, it's going to be important again for anyone that's listening. Once you position yourself or begin to, align with some core values that you're writing down, once you hear those, buzzwords again about, hey, getting up early in the morning, right? Getting exercise, those different things, those things that just put you in the frame of mind of success, right? Once you begin to position yourself, you'll be able to weed out personally, like those people that are not a good fit for you. Because again, that is going to be one most important thing. You want to know who's great for you, but you also want to know what you need to stay away from, who you need to stay away from. And that may not necessarily be a good fit for you.
You are right about that. What you might think be a good fit, it really, 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 really may not be at all whatsoever. You don't want to be mentored by the wrong person because that can definitely set you back
it costs
a couple of years. Mm-hmm. Listen, just from being a kid and growing up and following and listening to other people didn't work out for me. So now I'm extremely selective of who I listen to, who I want to be like. So there was a quote in your book that I wanted to share with the audience because I was like, wow. I mean, there was a lot of good ones, actually. I have a bunch that I highlighted, but this is a really good one. And it says, You will feel better about life and what you have when you accept the fact that you are your greatest asset and your greatest liability.
Yes. That quote just within itself, I think, and you mentioned this earlier, right? Once you begin to just focus, right? And begin to think about what it is that you really want to be. And you have this past life, and then you know, hey, I have this future, Derrick or Carolyn, that I want to be. Then you cannot allow this to hold you back because, again, we're on our worst enemy. We can begin to think and too much about the past, where we are currently right now, and that can really affect where it is that we're trying to go. And so that's really what I meant by like, hey, you're your biggest, asset, or you can be your biggest liability. And so once you begin to shape your mind, you begin to put really, really your work ethic, hard work, put your dollars in the right place. It can catapult you and I mean, really, really beyond what you thought that you could do. However, on the flip side of that, like you said, you're working, you're just listening to music. You're watching every TV show that comes on, right? It's not helping you improve, go where you really want to be. I definitely think just as definitely I would just say as far as about the book, right? Keep this in mind. I tailored it to, and I made it very digestible, right? Even for especially, right, kids that are growing up that was once in our position, right? You're a teenager, right? And you're just kind of, trying to figure out who you are as just a person. If they begin to just understand what self-awareness is, what having good character is, you can start as early again as middle school, high school, even well into adulthood. And so these are just things, again, I wanted to make it great for the reader, not anything that was long and drawn out and just full of fluff, but it was just actual tangible core competencies and values that I know anybody can take with them and you can take with you for a lifetime. So again, when you think about the quotes, you think about the personal stories and how I tried to connect all those things together. I just wanted I wanted to put yourself inside that book and just begin to think about your own story and just like, hey, yeah, this was maybe not one of my most happiest moments in my life. However, I still can take that and help make me into the person that I really want to be.
Absolutely. And the book was absolutely digestible. I loved it. Like you said, there wasn't a lot of fluff, and I just know that it's going to be very impactful for a lot of people, especially like you said, the young adults. I wish I would have had your book as a young child, like 10, 11, 12. Man, there's just so many great gems in there. So much good stuff for you guys to read. If you're looking to work on your personal development, if you're looking to improve your life in any type of way, regardless of what situation you're in, where you might be living, you could be in your darkest moment. And this book really, really, really will help you in regards to changing your mindset and knowing that anything that you want to do in life is possible. You just have to put the work in and really try to surround yourself with people that are doing things that you want to do. So what would you say is the value of a mentor?
That's a great question. So the value of a mentor for me and to me is priceless, right? If I could think of any word, like I said, it is priceless. It will help you. Again, one of the chapters of the book is minimize your mistakes. Again, it will not rid you of like mistakes because again, making mistakes is what helps us as well too. But you don't want you don't want them to be very expensive, right? Very expensive mistakes, calculated mistakes. So when I think about that, once I began to start my journey of mentorship, being mentored, it just helped me so much to, like you said, one of my favorite quotes that, again, I shocked myself by, but I knew it was very powerful, is that character can only be built through conflict, pressure, and people. So when we're comfortable, we're not building character, but it's when we get those mentors, as you mentioned, when they begin to tell us things that we don't want to hear, or we're connected to people that may not display the best character, and we know we don't like certain things about them, and your nature is that, hey, I may want to get in their face, or I may want to have these negative thoughts, but it takes you in a different direction of helping you to understand who you don't want to be, right? And what things you should strive for. And so I would just say the value of a mentor is just priceless. That's why I harp so big on it. You have a conversation with me within 10 minutes, you'll hear something about mentorship, right? Because again, I think everybody definitely should have one. And I think, I think just especially, we were the one that we were running for the district, the school district. We had over 3,000 young men and women that were a part of that program. And I mean, they were cut from all different walks of life. And it was just opportunities that we were able to provide for them. And whereas to you and I didn't hear about really mentorship until our adulthood, they were able to hear about this in middle school, high school, and elementary school. So hopefully they will take that and have that head start within life.
Well, I just want to say you are doing amazing things by helping these young men and women, because I definitely could have used somebody like you. or Joe Jackson or any of my mentors that I have now. I agree with you. The value of a mentor is priceless. I have learned more from my mentors than I have from my own parents, from my professors in college, from my teachers, from any figure really in my life. I have learned more from the mentors that I have had. And again, I've only been mentored or had mentors for the past 5 years now, and it has completely changed my life. Like 180, no doubt about it. And I will always seek mentorship. I will always have a mentor actively. You guys, if you're listening, the value of a mentor is 100% priceless. Do not overlook that. If you don't have if you don't have those figures in your life, if you don't have anyone to look up to or somebody to teach you what you should be and shouldn't be doing, don't feel discouraged. There is free information out there. We all have smartphones nowadays, so we have no excuses. So that we're going to have to eliminate that excuse.
Yes. I mean, we are definitely in an information age. And one thing I just want to say, especially because I know you have a lot of business listening ears, people that are entrepreneurs, all these things translate into business, right? And once you get that personal development side, what you'll begin to do is start seeing yourself take integrity and character in the way that you handle business and you handle customers. When I mentioned something about character, and Carolyn, I've also, just kind of following you, just when you think about how some of our customers look at us as cleaning entrepreneurs, some don't really value the work, right? Or maybe sometimes they might even see you as less than. You may be more educated than them. But you have to keep in mind how to compose yourself, articulate a message to a customer that may be complaining about nothing or just may even try to get a rise out of you. So I just wanted to let people know that these principles, once you get the personal development piece intact, it definitely translates into business and will help you tremendously.
Oh, for sure. I agree with you on that. It all starts with the personal development. You can't be a good business owner, a good anything really. Like now how I speak to my children is completely different than I would have before, because now I'm trying to teach them everything that I'm learning. Control your emotions. You can do anything. So it's really important because, and like you said, it translate into business. I want to thank you so much for taking the time out. Well, number one, for connecting with me on Instagram, for sending me the book. It's amazing. I love it. You guys definitely need to get yourself a copy. Let us know how we can support you, where we can find you, and yeah, all things Derrick.
Definitely. Well, definitely thank you. I enjoyed definitely being on with you today. Enjoyed this conversation. So again, my name is Derrick Emanuel. Carolyn and I connected on Instagram. I reached out to her because again, that's some amazing things that again I saw her doing. So you can find me there on Instagram at Eman, Eman, the CEO, Eman, the CEO. Again, I am definitely, active on Instagram, also on Facebook as well too, at Derrick Emanuel, as well as LinkedIn. Pretty much all my handles are, my name, Derrick Emanuel, and you'll see some links there with my commercial cleaning website as well as my book as well.
Awesome. And you are providing mentorship as well for anybody that is looking,
of course,
to be mentored.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Awesome, you guys. He wrote a book on it, okay? So he knows his stuff.
Absolutely.
Definitely be sure to follow Derrick on all social channels. And again, I will be linking below everything that he has, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as a link to the book. I promise you will not regret buying it. Thank you again so much for reaching out, for connecting, and we definitely have to have you on the show again. And I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I can't wait. Enjoy the rest of your day.